I feel I can ask you this question as one who lived the time, and as astute as you are, you can give a nuanced response to this. What does the re-election of Barack Hussein Obama mean for the legacy of the movement?
Hallelujah, hallelujah. It depends on us now.
Okay.
It's almost like Franklin Roosevelt saying to A. Philip Randolph, I hear what you're saying, Philip. You know, whatever it is we got to say to Obama, it's the same thing that Randolph said to Roosevelt. And it's the same thing that Roosevelt said to Randolph. I agree with everything you said, but you got to make me do it. You go and initiate it, and I will supplement, I'll compliment. But you got to initiate it. We do not have an agenda yet. We've got to create the agenda that will make Obama's tenure relevant. In some ways, his tenure has not been totally relevant to us. We would have done better with Hillary as president. Hillary would have been more attentive to the black equity issue. Obama has not been able to deal with the black equity issue. That's been our price as black folks for having a symbolic president. For the most part, up to now, Obama has been, I don't want to use the irrelevant, that's not what I mean. It's been more symbolic than real in terms of the black equity issue.
Okay.
Right? So we got to put the mandate to him. We really need to have it before him by January. So he understands in January, right? At this time, he's got to have the black equity issue up there with the other priorities. It ain't there right now. It's not there right now. And he can't put it there. But we have to do that. And I'm hoping that I do talk with about 40 pastors around the country every week. And I know that some people are ready now to do that. And it may well be that we'll have something together about Martin's birthday to say to the nation, look, we have been your most patient, black folks have been the most patient democratic hopefuls of any group. Everybody else is telling Obama, you got to do this for us, you got to do that for us. We've been sitting there waiting. Right? Now is the time for us in a very calm, thoughtful way to say that here are the 3 triggers that must be exercised on behalf of black inequity. Black inequity is unique in America because it was our sacrifice that built the wealth foundation for America. And if you don't have reparations, really I don't like the word reparations, if you don't have repairment, you don't have reconciliation. If you don't have reconciliation, you don't have restoration. And I really believe that we are the guardians of the soul of America. But we will not fill that role until we allow Jesus to save our soul as a people. That's a Pentecost thing.
Yeah.
That's a Pentecost thing. I would say that black churches, I'm kind of impatient that we get to Easter, close the door, and wait to Christmas to pull up the big stuff again. We don't go from Easter to Pentecost. Easter is the moment when Jesus was resurrected. Pentecost is the time when the disciples were resurrected. Wow. And with Martin Luther King, after Martin's death, same thing. We close shop. And we don't even stop to remember Martin's death day. I don't understand that. How it is we get excited about his birthday. That wasn't even about him. That was his mom and his daddy. That was their day. But his death day was, he said, my day. When I have to meet my day. And I think that black people, it's what E.D. Nixon said to them black preachers in Montgomery. And I feel that I can say this, because I remember the old preachers used to say this to me. I just digress to tell you this. When I was leading the civil rights movement in Lynchburg, right, M.C. Allen was a venerable president of Virginia Seminary College, where your mentor, Larry Carter, got his start, and I was Larry's teacher there. And so I was leading the civil rights movement, and I had got professors and students going to jail together, black, white, and all that stuff. MC calls me in, and he gives me this lecture. He's sitting there looking like Moses with his long gray hair on his shoulders, you know. And he finally says to me, you Negroes running around here talking about some integration. He said the white folks gonna do, no, y'all gonna do the entering and the white folks gonna do the gravy. Now there was more than a grain of truth in mine. Is that we shut down so many of our institutions, businesses, a lot of our institutions, and went into somebody else's place and sat in the back of the bus. In a sense, desegregation and integration may have been unthoughtfully done. And it may well be that we were so enamored of the idea that the guy who used to oppress us will pat us on the head and say, I'm going to let y'all sit in a room with me. The affiliation is just what I'm talking about, as opposed to power induced. And that's what I did actually at Harvard on. So looking at how we exchanged accommodation and affiliation for power and equity. You got to have equity to have justice. Tillich was right. Love, power, and justice is key. The convergence of those.
How would you, considering the challenges that you perceive for my generation?
Yes.
What advice, what admonishments would you give to young preachers?
I want to say a word about you, Brother Will. I want to say a word about you. We first met when you were at Morehouse. You were president of the Chaplains Chaplain. Chaplains. Yeah, that's right. That was how many years ago? Roughly.
Roughly five.
At least 5 years ago. Right. I want to say in response to that question, I know maybe a half a dozen young brothers and sisters, ministry and minister, whom I think, I'm going to be a little presumptuous in saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I feel it. I've seen it all. I started when I was 17, I'm 81 now, and I've seen it all. I've been a part of the sorry part, and I've been a part of the not so sorry part. I like your embrace of Jesus first. Number two, your embrace of the people. You have immersed yourself in the issue of mass incarceration, how we fix that. My word to our young people, not just the black, but to the young people, especially high school and college age and so forth, say from 18 to 35, maybe from 12 to 35, is that we find out what is the biggest rub, what is the biggest itch. And I think this whole prison thing, I call it the jail trail. And the reason you have to look at it in the front end, the back end, and the middle. You've got to have effective intervention strategies at all three levels. On the back end, and you've immersed yourself in that issue, and I'm so excited and delighted about that. And I look for the day when your leadership in that area will be buttressed by big numbers of young people. I see you, I mentioned Dwight Ford. There's Greg Bailey in Atlanta, who's a lawyer and a minister. I've got about 40 people doing monthly PhD studies in Cincinnati. In that group, young men and women, very promising. I tell you something that Dwight told me that just thrills me to death, to life. And when he said to me, and I'm talking about some things that God has told me to do, that I know God is telling me. He's not telling me to finish it, he's telling me to start. And I'm saying to God, why are you telling me to do this, Lord? You know how old I am. And God said, I know how old you are. I'm giving you right now as much time as I've ever given you. I've never given you. When you were 21, I gave you as much time then as I've given you when you're 81. That's one day at a time. So take that day and do what I'm telling you to do. Right. So Dwight once said to me, he said, I'm willing to be your 40-year-old stand-in. And what that did for me is help me appreciate that, or ourselves, Brother Willie, we are fellow torch bearers. It's not that I've got a torch to give to you, I get as much from you as hopefully you get from me. I really mean that. It's a living, it's life-giving life. Life-giving life. That's the abundant life. And God has given us something that can be a blessing on the globe. Right now, my focus is beyond the local thing, on the global scene. I want to see how what we have to offer, our intellectual property, our spiritual resourcefulness, can bless South Africa and China. They need each other. China is buying up Africa, as you know. I think China has better intention with Africa than the West has. They don't have the technology, but they have the intention. Because they've always, that socialism issue, right? Martin said the workable society would not be capitalism or socialism, but the one that combines the strengths of capitalism and socialism without the weaknesses of either. That's what we're working on. That's the model. And I call it the beloved community economic systems. We've got to create those systems. Actually, those systems exist within nature. But we've got to create the organic social structures that mimic the way nature functions. And there's this wonderful book called Gardens of Democracy. Nick Hanau is a genius behind that. Gardens of Democracy. And sometimes we're going to have some conversation with Nick. I don't know him personally. I just know his word. But Gardens of Democracy. That will help us to figure this thing out. We are fellow torchbearers, right? And so we have something to exchange. I call it the Jubilee Wisdom Exchange. I just been on the field a little longer, but your contribution, young people like yourself, you have a greater contribution. Actually, I understand what Obama was saying to those young people the other day. You know, he was overwhelmed. That was a great moment. Saying to them, you know, what you're going to do is so much greater than anything I've done. And that's true. I say that. It's almost like Jesus saying to his disciples, greater works than these shall you do. The sad fact is, he said he's expecting greater works out of us. We haven't even done as well. And maybe grace and mercy will allow us to rectify that. I pray so.
Certainly. Thank you, Dr. Wood, for joining us.
It's a delight, my brother.
You've blessed so many people with your wisdom, and it's just a joy to sit at your feet today. Be blessed.